I think I was driving up one of the hills in Edmonton right after I was ordained and realizing I'm a priest. Everything seemed much greener. It's a bizarre feeling to really express, but it was only really after I was ordained, a few days afterwards, that it was really something that was hitting me. My life has been completely changed, that the world seems to be a little bit bigger, everything seems to be a little bit greener, and that was really the most profound and personal experience of realizing that I was a priest. But I mean, that's only after being ordained. I had little inklings when I was little, when I first started altar serving, that I would entertain the notion of being a priest, but it wasn't anything of real substantive value. But these little blips, all added up to this feeling that I couldn't shake, that I had to deal with, that I had to pray through. And that eventually led me into the seminary, into the experience of finally discerning that the Lord is calling me to serve at his altar, to serve the people of God. And it was a whole roller coaster of emotion throughout my seminary experience, that it was only after I was ordained that I finally realized, I'm a priest. This is amazing. When you see a line circling or snaking itself for the confessional line, and you join that line, there is grace in being able to see the next person in front of you, that here's someone who needs to go to confession, just like me, and there's grace in that. It's the same thing in seminary, where you go in and you're unsure of yourself, but you're surrounded with a number of other men that are in the same place, that they feel that God has called them in such a real and substantive way that they have said, enough with my life, I need to figure this out. And that is something that inspires. That is something that allows you to continue even when you're having a horrible day, even when you're having a horrible and crappy week. You know that you have your brothers there and that they're going through the same things, that they have these moments too, and that you're not alone. There is strength in that perspective of communion. I got the shingles, so, fear, anxiety, stress, it's a whole package. Fear is a normal human emotion. The fear of the unknown, the fear of, will I be able to live up to this great vocation, to this great image that I have? And the simple answer is no, not by myself. With God's grace, yes. And so that fear was something that was present, but it bowed in the presence of God's assurity, of his fidelity, of his promise that I will be with you. So I still have those moments of fear. I still have those moments of anxiety. But my confidence in the providence of God is mightier than those human natural feelings. And they can't rule me. You're asking for one aspect. I will give you an umbrella concept in return, because I think this is where I see a lot of God's grace, and that I am an instrument of God's mercy in people's lives, whether that is in the Eucharist, whether that is in the sacrament of confession, whether that is in the sacrament of the sick, whether that is doing pastoral counseling and chatting with people, or just listening giving someone my ears to listen, which is I think a great need in our society. So it's not one thing; it's all the things under one aspect of just being an instrument for God's use. One of the most difficult things that I've encountered is the lukewarmness that people live in, where you don't need at all to think about the big questions. You don't need to grapple with the big questions. You don't need to ask anything other than the most shallow, surface level things to live a life. And that's the most maddening thing, because if people seriously thought about the deeper things in life, we would have people really pursuing God. And what we have at the moment is this fluff that we're going through that is completely meaningless. There are moments where I wish I could climb the bell tower and just start screaming for people to acknowledge and do something about their lives. And I can't, because that wouldn't make a difference. They would just see me as a crazy person. Absolutely. Yes. Because it is a real feeling. Now, of course, you want to transform that loneliness into a sense of solitude, but it's still the same feeling. It's still sort of the same experience that you go through. One thing that I think has helped is fostering a circle of friends and support and family in that way, to be able to be a man of communion, because that is the call of the priest, to be a man of communion, and you need to be able to feed yourself with the good, healthy supports that you have in your life in that way. So in many ways, it is my friends, it is my family, it is the people praying for me that help sustain me in my priesthood. And that's an incredible realization to have, is to know how many people have your back and are propping you up. An image I think I like to see is Moses holding up his hands and his brother Aaron putting stones underneath to prop him up, to keep him in that pose. And I feel that is, in some ways, what my friends, what my supports, what my family are constantly doing in that battle against loneliness in the priesthood. The answer is yes. I had to grapple with the natural desires to have a family, to have kids, and that was a real struggle throughout the years of discernment. But I had to envision myself being a good father, and then allow that sense to animate, to inspire, to really ignite the fatherhood of being a priest. If I was a crappy dad, that would translate, I think, in the same way to being a crappy priest. If I was able to be a great dad, that same animating spirit allows me to be a great priest. So I have that consolation that the Lord takes those natural drives and allows us to channel that for the sake of the church, for the sake of my spiritual children, and hopefully be a good dad in that sense. You know, when I was growing up, there was always this sense in school and in society that do what's going to make you happy. Do what's going to make you happy. And that was really something that was shoved down everyone's throat. And my response to that was, and I remember this as a little child, I don't want to do what makes me happy. I want to do what is right. And I think there is some wisdom in little old Roger back in the day, because it is by being able to fulfill what is right, what is your call, what is the reason you're here, that will bring that happiness, that will bring that sense of blessedness into your life. It's by being able to do what we're meant and called to do that brings us to where we want to be. What I would say is be there to support your brother priests. I would almost reinforce that absolute need to be a man of communion, to take seriously that call, and to make sure that you're talking with others. I think that's the most important thing. I've always loved the thurible. I've always loved incensing in the church, and I know people will die and choke. Even if there's nothing in the thurible, people start choking, even if it's not lit. I know this. I've seen this. But it is an amazing thing to be able to raise incense, holy smoke, during the liturgy and do so and really draw in a sense that something incredible is happening. And, well, just sends shivers down my spine. I think everyone needs to have that serious conversation. I don't think God calls everyone, but that is a conversation everyone needs to seriously grapple with. Not the kind of, oh yeah, I thought about it last night, Father, and, no, I don't feel called to God because, I want to be married. No. This is like, you need to spend a week really grappling, wrestling to be able to recognize, okay, is this something that God is actually calling me in my life? And can I do this? I think every young man needs to have that conversation, whether he is called or not. He needs to have that struggle for sure. It's shut up and just listen to God, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please.